Makiru Emba Makiru Emba Makiru Emba Makiru Emba The prayer Makiru Imba Nebuchadnezzar can be found in the Papyrus of Sage Annie. If I remember, I'll look for the inscription for you so you can see. And I wanted to start with us looking down into the tomb of Seti Ua. If we turn around, we can see the entrance. And you would walk down behind this door you have to walk up a hill to the top of this staircase, and then you walk down and you enter into the open door. And as we said before, these metal railings were not there in ancient times. These are modifications to help tourists get in and out of the tomb. And this staircase is not the original staircase either. The original staircase is actually in stone. And they built these metaphysical devices. You know, we're not calling them tombs, or referring to them as tombs officially. They built these metaphysical devices out of the solid bedrock, or out of the side of mountains in what is referred to as the Valley of the Kings. So we're standing here and we're looking down into the metaphysical device as we contemplate the great teaching and philosophy. Now, at this level, you don't see any of the Duat texts as yet. You see the litany of Ra. You see the forms of Ra on the sides down in this section of the device. But your face, the major divinity you're faced with when you're looking down into the device is this goddess, Ma'at. And as you're looking down into the device, typically above the lintels to doorways, you see the symbol of the winged disc, which is Perubehude. But here we have Ma. And you don't see the first depiction of the Duat text you find if you come down the hallway. So where the yellow dot is, that's where we're standing up there. And here you can see these steps here. These are the original from ancient times. But you can see how worn down they are from all the tourists coming in. And here you find the first depiction of the Duat text, which this is one of the primary, I could say primary, this division will be a primary subject of the second book. And now let's go back to our text to continue our discussion. So now we're going to go into the gloss of the rubric text. Gloss and rubric text above metaphysical process 1 of metaphysical device, Tutankhamun. So the first metaphysical process of the Duat in the metaphysical device of Tutankhamun. The city where the subtle body of the personality passes through is the netherworld. This MP1 depiction is the metaphoric entrance point where the personality enters into the less phenomenal planes of existence. And we answered a question about what that means the last time. The allusion to abode refers to the idea of traveling along with the grace and boons of the divinity as well. Poignantly, that the initiate is indeed the divinity that is making the journey, and thus the boat is a metaphor for the spiritual movement of the royal personality, spiritual initiate. In this case, Pura Tutankhamun is a symbolic metaphor for any serious aspirant that takes on this system of practice. The boat passes through the hall of Mahati, where the unconscious mind is weighed against the feather of truth. It is here where the quality of the soul is assessed in association with the unconscious mind. If the unconscious mind is found to tend towards truth, then this boat will be allowed to go on its journey, and the royal will be allowed to accompany the divinity within the boat of the nighttime, which is metaphorical language for the netherworld. This is important. I'm highlighting now so I can hit these points when we go back. By going to the west in the boat of heaven, the text is assuring that heaven is within the netherworld. Okay, so let's go back and take it piece by piece. Firstly, phenomenal planes of existence. This is referring to what is referred to as the astral plane. And the astral plane has various regions within it. It is not just one open space. It has various dimensions, and the text referred to these as a seketu or sekets, special cities. But these special cities are actually various levels of mind within yourself, or states of conditions of consciousness that you can achieve in meditative practice. So the less phenomenal planes of existence refers to anything that is not physical, anything that is astral. And astral is any domain dimension that you cannot perceive with your physical senses. So you can't see the astral plane with your physical eyes. You can't touch it with your hands. You can't. I'm trying to paint a picture for you that it is something that is beyond the reach of your physical senses, and that it is something within you, but it's also a planes of the higher regions of the physical universe. So the astral plane that is being referred to in the Duat is beyond the physical plane of existence. Has nothing to do with the physical plane of existence, except from the perspective that you're trying to transcend the physical plane of existence and live out your existence in the astral plane. And the reason why you would do that is because the physical plane is essentially illusory. And since it is the terminal manifestation plane of the divine, it is the lowest plane of existence. And so it is the lowest, it's the most polluted, it's the most degraded, it's the most degraded. And as long as you exist in the physical plane with a normal mind, an unenlightened mind, then you are being degraded by your participation in the physical plane of existence. It's like you lay down with fleas, you get fleas. You can be a good person or try to be a good person, try to be the best person you can be, whatever. But you're laying with fleas, and the fleas are all the other unenlightened people and their problems and issues and their you know, the permutations from their mind that is permeating the thought environment that you are existing in, and so it has an effect on you. And as long as a human being accepts the illusion of the physical plane of existence as the ultimate reality, is as long as they remain degraded. And so the Duat is sort of a panacea or a salve or a medicament, you know, a medicine to solve the issue of normal physical existence or physical existence. So at the time of death, when you actually die, because everyone is going to die, no one is going to get out of here alive, or what you perceive to be being alive. If you come back, that's what the Duat text is trying to convey to us. It's trying to give us a way to cut off our participation in the lowest plane of existence, which is the physical plane. And we can have existence in higher planes and go beyond those higher planes to discover absolute reality, which is Nebuchadnezzar, Planeter, however you want to call it. The allusion to a boat refers to the idea of traveling along with the grace and boons of the divinity. So you're traveling along with the divine grace. One of the things that is important to understand is that you have to garner the grace of the divine, of the divinities. You have to elicit their favor to assist you in transcending the physical plane. And you do that by purity, sincerity, and sincere practice. That's how you will get the boons and the grace and the favors from the divinities. There is and saying that, what comes to mind is that there's a drought. There's actually a worldwide drought. It's not really a drought. It's the ecology is messed up. So the weather patterns are messed up because the mechanism for weather has been broken by putting too much carbon into the atmosphere. You can't keep pumping carbon into the atmosphere and expect nothing to happen. And what's happening is that a lot of rivers are drying up and reservoirs. And what has happened, and this has happened all over the world, it's happened in Egypt too, that when the governments dam rivers, they flood out sacred places where there were statues or temples, worship areas, of a mystical nature. Some temples in Egypt, there are temples under the water in Lake Nasser in Egypt that has been flooded. They weren't able to be moved. And the temple of Aset was able to be moved. The temple of Kalabsha was able to be moved. There are others that were not able to be moved, so they're under the water by the artificial lake, which is called Lake Nasser in Egypt. And this kind of thing has happened all over. What is being found is that as the waters are drying up, as these lakes, these artificial lakes and water reservoirs are drying up, the artifacts and statues and worship sites are being revealed, are coming back because the water is drying up. So I see it sort of like a, the divine energy is revealing, the mystic sites. And I think this idea is also that kind of a revelation, something that has been drowned out by Western religion and drowned by our own ignorance, and drowned by existing in a society that is highly influenced by Western culture. Is this idea that there is an existence beyond the physical plane of existence that is a real existence that you can actually live in your astral body, your psychic body, and that this physical plane is a temporary, transparent kind of dimension that you can transcend and take up occupation in a higher mystical, more subtle plane of existence. This idea, this concept, was removed by Western religion. In Islam, in Christianity, in Islam with Jinnah, in Christianity with heaven, in Judaism Zion. All of these refer to a heaven that is actually existent on a physical plane. And so you're stuck on the physical plane. There's nothing beyond, there's nothing less phenomenal. There's only what is phenomenal. And that is, that's kind of a problem. You get stuck with your awareness or your idea of life as nothing but something that is physical. And that your physical, especially in Christianity, your physical body is going to rise up again. And the whole point is to realize that there is a dimension of existence that is beyond the physical plane that you can explore if you want to. How you explore it? You explore it by meditative practice, by meditation. You become subtler and subtler and subtler until you transcend the physical plane, have an astral experience outside of dream. That's the key. That's the big point. And thus, the boat is a metaphor for the spiritual movement of the royal personality, spiritual initiate. And the point with this is that so it's a metaphor. The Tutankhamun is actually a metaphor for you. All of you are Tutankhamun. And because all of you are if you take on the teaching, you're serious about the process, you're that spiritual personality, you're the royal, on the royal road to enlightenment. So any qualified person. So in other words, the Duat text is not talking about a pharaoh long ago. Although we know that Tutankhamun existed, we actually have his body, and there are writings with his name on it, etc. But you have to realize that Kemetic society is a mythic society. So you're living out a mythic journey. And so Tutankhamun is merely a metaphor for all of the people who are a spiritual aspirants of the teaching. And you should know that in ancient times, not every person was an initiate, was an aspirant of the teaching. There are people that went on their way and rode up and down in their boats, and were eating their dates and enjoying themselves, and they weren't really taking the teaching seriously. And that's why we're here now. If we are taking the teaching seriously, we wouldn't be sitting here giving this lecture or listening to this lecture. Hopefully we're taking it seriously now, so you don't have to have, at the end of this lifetime, you don't need any more lectures. And so the spiritual aspirant is the person that is the royal, and thus you are the royal on the royal road. And so you have to sort of see yourself that way and try to live your life according to that. And that means your ritual in the morning, if you can in the afternoon, if you can in the evening. should be 3 times a day, but at least once a day to live out that mythic journey, at least in a ritual, right? Doing the morning devotion, afternoon or evening, or whichever one you know fits your schedule, at least to that level. And so Amun is the symbolic metaphor for any serious aspirant that takes on this system of practice. And this system of practice is referring to the Duat system of practice, which is a practice of discovery and exploration of the astral plane, the astral world of existence. We're not forgetting this world. We're understanding what this physical world is. We're realizing what it is so that we are not entrapped by it. So we are not mesmerized by it. So we're not caught and attached to it. If we want to relieve ourselves from the suffering inherent in day-to-day life, if we realize that this is illusory, this is all an illusion. If you hold on to everything, that's where you suffer. That's where suffering becomes endemic in your life because of holding on and not letting go. And what you're holding on to is an illusion, and that's the problem. And that's why it causes suffering. Because you're holding on to something that is temporal, that is fleeting, that is transient, that has no basis in reality. Therefore, it can only cause suffering. You know, that's a hard fact of life that the spiritual aspirant is not afraid to face. It faces that reality. And if you face that reality, you say, okay, let me see what this is all about. And let me try to realize what this illusory world, the nature of this world is. Then you're facing that truth. And once you face that truth, then you cannot, once you face that truth and you realize it, you won't want to go back. You know, because it's liberating to realize that you don't have to suffer. And suffering is the creation of one's own ignorance, meaning holding on to the temporality of the physical plane of existence. And once you let go of the temporality of the physical plane of existence, you know, and letting go is a process. It takes time, it takes reflection, it takes working through it in yourself. But once you realize it, once you let go of the physical plane, then the possibility, the great possibility arises to enter into the astral plane and have experiences there that will further inform your unconscious mind of the nature of the physical plane of existence. So it's about letting go of the physical world so you can explore the nether world. Be allowed to accompany the divinity within the boat of the nighttime, which is metaphoric language for the netherworld. So the reason why I wrote this, not the only reason, but a reason, is for for aspirants to reflect upon the idea that the 12 hours of the night is referring to some nighttime, like like sundown to sun up. And it's not really referring to the nighttime. The night, which is now, at least here in Singapore, is dark now. The night is a metaphor for the netherworld, for the astral plane. The reason why is because the night, the physical night, and I'm not talking about the night when you have street lights and you have street lights and you have cars driving up and down, back and forth, and you know how it is in the city. They have all the lighted advertising. You're driving down or you're walking, and all of the stores have their lighted advertising. I'm talking about if all of that is cut out. Let's say you go to a deserted place where there's no electricity, no electrical light, and there's no light. You're standing in pitch darkness, pitch blackness. That is a metaphor for the astral plane, because the astral plane appears like that to the mind when you're actually having an astral plane experience. That's what, not exactly, because it cannot be completely exact, because it's a different plane of existence, but it appears as that. It can appear as the blackness of outer space, even, or the blackness of when all of the lights are cut out, even in your house. And if all of the lights are cut out in your house and there's no light from a street lamp coming in to your house, that is what it looks like. That is what it appears like. That is how it appears to the mind. But if you have, or we'll talk a little, I was gonna say talking about the light shining in, but we'll talk about that at a later time when it becomes more appropriate to talk about that. So that physical light, that physical night, then becomes a metaphor for the astral plane and how it appears to the mind when you're actually having an astral plane experience, existence. And so going to the West means going to the astral plane in the boat of heaven, which is the boat of Ra, because Ra exists in heaven. So all of this is metaphorical language. So the boat is actually a metaphor for your journey through an exploration of the netherworld, the astral plane. So the text is assuring that heaven is within the netherworld. That's where heaven is, because that's where the relative planes of the astral are existent. And in those relative planes of the astral, like we said, we're going to discuss it more later. This is more of a general kind of, this is the beginning of the first division of the Duat. If the mind is found to be in alignment or tending towards truth, then the boat is allowed to proceed through the netherworld. If the unconscious mind of the personality tends toward delusion and unrighteousness, the personality will be repulsed and not allowed to travel through the netherworld. Therefore, your capacity to enter the divine boat in a hall of Mahati is predicated on one's level of purity and capacity to ascertain the planes of existence in a manner that is commensurate with truth. If delusion is endemic through one's thoughts, feelings, desires, and actions, if delusion is the basis of one's existence, then one would be turned back at the gate to the netherworld, the field of Mahati, and this will lead to a normal human existence characterized by pain and suffering with interspersed happy moments. However, there would be no awareness of anything other than material phenomena. And since material phenomena is illusory, that mind would be existing in a state of confused ignorance, which is the plight of those who look no further to seek out the reality of things than normal human sense perception. Therefore, the Duat is open to those who are ritually and cosmically pure. This operation of opening of the Duat region has its basis in the cosmic functions of 5 divinities. They are inherent within the affirmations of innocence as special insights into the nature of the spirit domain. The 5 deities are Ma'at, Nebet-Deb, Heru, Kashu, Nehes. Thus, truth carries with it the implication of the effects of the subtle spiritual experiences that reconditions the unconscious mind. So we'll come back to this. So if your mind is like we spoke about the last time we were here, if the mind is tending towards truth, then your positive spiritual movement towards the netherworld will be unimpeded. There will be nothing to stop it or prevent it or to cause a repulsion. And recall that we spoke about the hall of Ma'ati, and we spoke about the understanding of the 2 truths of Ma'at. You have the truth of the nature of the physical world. You have the truth of the nature of the ultimate divine. And based upon your level of realization determines what happens to you. It's not really you, it's your personality. There's you, and you is not your name and your form. Those are aspects of the spirit-like consciousness within you that has taken on name and form. So the real you, if there's anything to be pointed towards as you, it would be your your spirit light body. Everything else is illusion. And even your spirit light body, okay, we'll leave it there for now. So hold that thought that the real you is your It's not your name, your form, your mind, or anything like that. So the conglomerates that go to comprise your personality, they will be rejected. That entity that is ascertaining an I, that entity is what will be rejected. And that will be rejected if there is no realization of the two truths, and you'll not be allowed to enter into the initial phases of the Duat. You will not be able to go through the mystic principles of the Hall of Ma'ati. You'll be cut off from that. And that is a predicament of most human beings. You have to know that. Yeah, they're not going to be able to go through the Hall of Ma'ati. And this includes your friends, your family, your co-workers, whatever. You, we're using that term again, will be able to enter into the Hall of Ma'ati if there is an understanding of the essence or the principle of the truth of temporality and the truth of infinity. There has to be some level of realization of that, or else it will not work. It cannot work. This is like a science, like a spiritual psychology. And so if you, and this is a key to be able to, level of purity and capacity to ascertain the planes of existence in a manner that is commensurate with truth. And therefore, if you can only ascertain the astral plane existence as a dream, then you'll be cut off. And if you ascertain the astral plane of existence as an absolute reality, then again, you'll be cut off. You'll not be able to go through the psychic principles of the Hall of Ma'ati. It will not be possible. So you have to realize what the nature of the relative planes of existence are, and you have to realize what the nature of the physical plane of existence is. And if you combine those, what will happen is that you'll gain access into these five, the cosmic functions of these five divinities. You follow? So the key is purity of heart, purity of mind, and able to, with your mind, with your understanding, with your consciousness perception, able to ascertain the planes of existence with regards to how things really are, the truth of things, and not through delusions or fanciful notions, but how things really are. So you have to know that that all phenomena are illusory, is something to be realized. If you have that realization that phenomena are illusory, then you gain a special capacity to gain insight into the physical, the astral plane of existence. And that will be your entrance way to overcoming the pull, or overcoming the magnetism of the physical plane of existence. Because it's magnetic, it has a kind of hold on you, a kind of grip, a kind of it tintillates or titillates your senses and your perception, and so you become gripped by it, and therefore there is no other perception. There's no capacity for perception beyond physical nature, and that's a serious problem from the perspective of reality. Therefore, the Duat is open to those who are ritually and cosmically pure. And that's relating to being pure in heart, pure in mind, and ritually pure, meaning the purity through ritual practice that develops your feeling capacity. And when you're developing your feeling capacity, it overcomes the negative emotional states and conditions. You develop the capacity to feel, and to feel what is, to feel, put it to you this way. It's a feeling of something other than your negative emotional states and conditions. So more of a feeling of relaxation, of peace. So you lose the non-feeling hard-heartedness, and you develop more of a cosmic attunement to the other, to the universe, to the divine, to Ma'at herself. And cosmically pure, and this is a big point, this cosmically pure. Because cosmically pure is relating to a purity, a kind of purity that is allowing you to be sort of I guess the best word that comes to mind now is to be in tune with the cosmos, and to be in tune with cosmic bodies, with cosmic forms, with cosmic exudations, to be in tune with that. And in other words, to not be repulsed from the cosmos, because you're cosmically pure. So your vital forces are purified, your mind is purified. So your purification through ritual is leading to a cosmic purity. And it's a purity, the purity of heart, the purity of feeling, the purity of mind, the purity of generation of thought. So the Hall of Mati doesn't reject you, and the cosmos don't reject you either. Because the cosmos, those are divinities. Whatever is in the cosmos, those are divinities as well. So you're not rejected or repulsed by the above, and you're not rejected by the below. Yeah, you're not rejected by the east, and you're not rejected by the west. Because you're cosmically pure, and you're ritually pure. This operation of opening of the Duat region has its basis in the cosmic functions of 5 deities. So by cosmic function, I mean how these deities operate within your psyche, you know, within your mind, and that means the unconscious, how they operate within you. They are inherent within the affirmations of innocence. That means they are inherent in the 42 precepts, 42 laws of Ma'at. So what that means is that these 5 divinities, their principles are inherent within the negative confessions or the affirmations of truth. Therefore, if the personality is in tune and abiding by those 42 principles of Ma'at, you're carrying these 5 divinities as well. In other words, by upholding those 42 laws of Ma'at, these 5 principles become operative in your consciousness, in your unconscious mind. They become operative, they become activated by following the 42 principles of Ma'at. And the 5 divinities, the 5 deities are truth. I've been trying to change the, it doesn't work, just makes it darker. Let's see. All right, look at that later. So the 5 deities are truth, Nebat Depth, mistress of the boat, Heru, illumination, Kashu, astral ether, Nehes, spiritual awakening. Thus, truth carries with it the implication of the effects of the subtle spiritual experiences that reconditions the unconscious mind. And that's what we're just talking about. So these are the divinities that it was just mentioning. So by actualizing the 42 laws of Ma'at, you're activating these principles. Is Ma'at. Here is Nep Depth. So let's see if I can make it larger. Wonderful, excellent. Pull it to the side. So this is Ma'at. You see she's a goddess. Here's her name with her symbol. And here's Net Depth. That's her. It's another goddess. Here is Heru. And here is Kashu. And here is Nehes. So once you pass through the Hall of Ma'ati, then do you go through the metaphysical process of encountering and generating these powers within your consciousness, within your mind. So you're allowed, so by going through the Hall of Ma'ati, you're allowed to discover the powers of these divinities within yourself. Okay, make it a little small. Okay. So Ma'ati relates to the two Ma'at goddesses. These two Ma'at goddesses, in their form of Aset and Nebuchadnezzar, Watchet and Nekabet, forms the serpent power system of a human being that carries the vital second energy, the life forces. The Sekhem beings are as if plugged into these two goddesses. Through a system of cleansing these life forces, they are to be activated and purified so that the mind can generate sufficient power to enter into the astral plane, the Duat. Cleansing the life forces is activating the Ma'ati goddesses and calling to fore the 5 deities at the opening of the field of Ma. So this is big, this is key. So Ma'ati relates to the two Ma'at goddesses, right? And these are the two Ma'at goddesses are actually Aset and Nebuchadnezzar. They are forms of Aset and Nebuchadnezzar. And Aset and Nebuchadnezzar are related to the serpent power system. So in other words, to enter into the Hall of Ma'ati, your serpent power system has to be purified. And how does that get purified? By your practice of the spiritual disciplines and your proper ascertainment, realization, and understanding of the hall of the two, of the temporal reality and the absolute reality. That's what purifies your life forces. So the purity of your life forces is concomitant with your understanding of the temporal truth and the absolute truth. They go together. So if your life forces are pure, it means you have good understanding. If your life forces are impure, you mean you have an imperfect understanding. And therefore you have to work on perfecting your understanding. And in perfecting your understanding, your vital second forces will be purified through that understanding. And that understanding will lead you to generate more power in your vital life forces. And that will allow for a deepening absorption in the Hall of Ma'ati. So we've reached the end of our time, so we'll end it there for today. But now you can see we're getting into we're really getting into it now. We're digging into it. This is good. And when we went back, it was, I think we were talking about oh, we went back here and we're looking at this and we're looking at these 5 divinities. And then the thought came to me, wow, we're really studying the tomb of Tutankhamun. No, it's in a way it's quite amazing. Okay. Are there any brief questions before we sign out? Okay, so we'll have a brief prayer and then we'll meet again next week. Makiru Emba Nebijer. Makiru Emba Nebijer. Makiru Emba Nebijer. Makiru Emba Nebijer. Mahat Angku Mahat Nebuten Kahenama Ankenama Ahenama Asimama Duama Nebuten Duamati. Attack. Dua everyone until we meet again. Attack.
Dua, heads up.